Hello everyone, Jared here, and in today's video, we're leaving Chengdu and finally heading off to Leshan, taking the train for 1 hour south to get there. And by the way, when we were leaving the city in our taxi on the way to the train station, we saw this really unique building outside to the right. And to this day, even after looking at Google Maps, I still have no idea what it is. So if anyone can tell me, that'd be great. Anyways, after a quick sit on the train ride, we eventually ended up at the Leshan train station.
Just outside the Leshan railway station, the sun decided to show itself today, and boy, it is hot out today. Maybe the hottest day of the summer so far.
And since we had a lot of time still for most of the day, we decided that we were going to go ahead and take a taxi directly to our hotel, drop off our stuff, and then immediately head to our first attraction for the day, the Leshan Buddha, the most famous Buddha statue in China.
So the sound that you are hearing right now is probably cicadas. Anyways, we are at the wharf across the river from where the Leshan Buddha is, and we're going to go ahead and get on the boat in just a moment to go ahead and take some videos, some pictures, whatever we can get on the boat. Hope you're looking forward to it.
As you can see, we were able to get there before most others and were at the front of the line to get onto the boat. And before we got on, my father had something to say.
We got to the train station, went outside to find a taxi, and all of a sudden, for the first time on the trip, had real sun, hot sun, blazing sun, along with the humidity. So this was really our welcome to the trip.
And after just a quick moment, it was time for us to go ahead and board the boat. Passing from one boat to another, walking by all the people trying to sell souvenirs before heading to the top deck and waiting for the boat to undock.
I'm amazed at how empty the boat is at the moment. We might get lucky with some good scenery on here without too big of crowds. But it could just be people are getting snacks right now.
Actually, it turned out that for pretty much the entire time, most of the people decided they'd stay inside in the boat on the first floor, and we couldn't figure out why they'd want to do this except for maybe the heat. So the top was luckily very empty for us.
Well, if I didn't have this hat on, I'd probably be sunburned. What do you think?
And as is a common occurrence for foreigners in China, wherever you travel, my father had to take pictures with some of the locals who wanted one.
We've started to move finally.
And so we moved away from the docks and over to where the giant Buddha is.
Alright, here it comes. Time to go ahead and see the Buddha.
Well, did you enjoy that shot of the Buddha? Because that's all we thought we were going to see at the time. But fortunately, the boat was just heading downstream before it was going to turn around quickly.
Over this way, in just a second, we'll be able to see the old bridge that goes across from the Buddha over to the temple on the little hill here. And then back over that way, of course, is where the giant Buddha is.
And there it was, the old Leshan City Bridge, which is probably one of the most architecturally unique and beautiful bridges in all of China. And behind that were a couple of temple complexes on the hillside as well. And then it was time to head back to the Buddha.
Here we are on the boat making our way back around to the Buddha. Hopefully we'll actually get more than just 2 seconds as we drive by it again.
And luckily for us, that's exactly what was going to happen. So without any further ado, here you go, more of the Leshan Dafua, or Giant Buddha. Thankfully this time, I was on the boat, which meant that I didn't have to climb down by the head, which is something I'd done in the past. You get a much better view from out on the boat. than if you're climbing right next to it.
You start from up at the top over that way. Yeah, up on the left. And then you work your way down and exit down over there before you climb back up the other side. All of it is just one person at a time.
I also tried to take a selfie with the Buddha, but that didn't really turn out so well. But fortunately, I was able to get the whole thing in a shot.
This is the largest, oldest statue of its kind in China.
This 233-foot tall statue was built sometime between 700 and 800 AD during the Tang Dynasty, and as you'll be able to tell in just a moment, it's strategically placed at the confluence of 3 different rivers. So historically, all the waters meeting here made this a very dangerous place for ships. And so this Buddha was carved in order to make the area safer for passing ships. There also used to be a temple that housed the entire Buddha's body, but that's been destroyed multiple times over the years through wars. And after a moment, this is when things started to get a little crowded and noisy.
Look at all the boats that stop here at this time too. There's quite a few. We're lucky that we actually stopped for this long. I thought it was going to be a blip. So one thing I recommend is that you get the boat that costs 70 yuan right now that starts on the opposite side of the river from where the Buddha and the Buddha Park is. This is where it's actually much longer for you to stay in front of the Buddha. You get to take as many videos and pictures as you possibly could want, whereas all these little boats that you've seen in the other videos, those go by pretty quickly. So make sure you get on the boat from the wharf that's nearby across the river. This is the type of boat that we are on.
We must have been in front of the Buddha for a good half hour, so we got plenty of shots of anything we could have wanted around here. And it wasn't long until it was time for us to move on from the Buddha back to the wharf.
The lesson learned, and it repeats itself all over the globe, is you don't have to climb up to the top of anything. People are always want that bird's eye view for some reason. But when you have the bird's eye view, what you're missing is the object you're standing on. So here, you get to see the Buddha if you take the river cruise. If you're 2 feet away from it, climbing on it, you get to see a knuckle, you get to see an eye, but you have no perspective. So spend more time not climbing, but sitting or standing, walking by, looking at the objects. You'll enjoy it. Much better trip.
And as we approached the shore, I had a few things to say about it as well.
I hope you've enjoyed the Leshan Buddha. Now we're going to go ahead and see what else we can do this afternoon inside Leshan.
And after a quick pull up to the docks next to us, we disembarked from the ship and walked around more of the city nearby. And as we did so, we happened to cross a park, where one thing that we found rather interesting was there were a lot of elderly individuals sitting around inside the overhangs that you see in the distance. And so we walked on over there to see what they were doing, and saw that they were actually playing a variety of games. Some of them were playing card games, but many of them were also playing some games that I'd never seen before. Also, we happened upon this street called Ding Dong Street, which I thought was a little funny. And next to Ding Dong Street was the Leshan Wenmiao Temple, which I guess is closed off to the public, because, as you can see, the gates were closed. So there was no way for us to get in and see what was inside, but it looked interesting from afar. Anyways, after staying there for just a few minutes, we decided that it was time for us to take the taxi back to the hotel, rested up for the next morning, and went off to our main destination for the second day in Leshan, which required that we went outside of the main city in order to get to this place, the Leshan Ebony Museum, where, like the Buddha, I had also been once before, and I really wanted to go back to again.
Day 2 in Leshan. We have a break through all the storms, all the rain and lightning, and right now we are at the Leshan Ebony Museum. This is definitely a place that you should go if you get the chance. I came here once before and really thought I had to go back because the works of art here are incredible. Let's go ahead and see if we can show you a little bit.
And luckily for us, there weren't any lines to get inside, and the place was pretty empty for the most part.
They cost 90 yuan each to be able to go in, so not exactly the cheapest museum, but I think it's worth it.
And one thing that I wasn't expecting when we went inside was there was a tour guide who offered us her services for free. And since the tour guide only spoke Chinese, that meant I had a lot of interpreting to do between me and my father. And it was definitely worth having her with us, because she was able to answer any questions we had about Leshan, the city, or about the ebony inside of the museum. She took us around to various parts of the museum that you see here, the process of extracting the ebony from the riverbeds where it's found, in its petrified wood form, and then what happens to the wood after it's touched more and more and oil begins to make the ebony shine. We also got to see some exhibits that highlighted the history of Leshan and what the old city walls used to look like, as well as what Leshan may have been like as a society back in historic times. But it wasn't until after these city models that the real part of the museum began, which focused on the ebony sculptures.
So this is a reconstruction of what the old summer palace was like in Beijing. There's only ruins of it now after the Boxer Rebellion happened, and it's inside actually university campus at Tsinghua. But they did a little reconstruction of what the fountains were like, and those fountains apparently had these ebony statues.
And while I appreciate all the statues that have the various zodiac animals as their heads, my favorite piece of work in this area was the reconstruction of the ancient Chinese seismograph that you see here. And then moving on, the works only got more impressive. Just look at these ebony lions. I can't even imagine how long it must have taken to carve these. But that wasn't the only impressive thing about the ebony in this museum. There are plenty of other statues and sculptures that I could have spent hours looking at.
So because it has the most colors, all these different kinds of colors, that's what makes it the most expensive type of wood. So this is the one that's the most expensive piece.
这一件颜色最浅，因为它用的是红豆三形层的。对，它主要向我们介绍的是12生肖欢聚堂给后面那个老寿星拜寿的一个场景。
So we were able to see ebony pieces of all types, but for me, the highlight of the museum was everything that comes right after this. This gigantic piece that you see here, along with this one and two others that are carved from singular pieces of wood that took over 30 craftsmen to make over the span of about a decade. Each of these 4 pieces is about one of the 4 great books of China: Romance of the Three Kingdoms, Bandits of the Marsh, Dream of the Red Chamber, and Journey to the West. And rather than say anything more about them, I'm just going to go ahead and let you see them in more detail. Really, it's an indescribable feeling that you get from looking at these intricately carved pieces of wood. And of all the art that I've seen in my years of being around China, there's nothing that compares to this.
So when I came here last time, I didn't really know the stories or the characters very well. I knew Three Kingdoms, and that was just the only one. Now I'm able to recognize the characters from Xiouji, also from Shui Hu Zhuan over on that side. So for those of you who don't know what those are, that's the Monkey King Journey to the West and the Bandits of the Marsh. But now I'm able to see scenes from those that I recognize, all in different scenes in this one piece. And it's really incredible.
Anyways, maybe you'll recognize some of the characters or tales from which these are modeled after. The one that I'm showing you here is the one for the Journey to the West, highlighting characters such as Yudi, the Jade Emperor, or the Undersea Palace where the Monkey King got his pole staff, as well as some side characters that accompanied the Monkey King on his quest, the main character, Tripitaka, or Xuanzang, depending on your translation, who is the monk that accompanies the Monkey King on the journey to India. And of course, on the right, you might be able to see the Monkey King himself holding his staff above his head.
I absolutely love this place. It is the best art you can possibly see. It's what you hope you can see when you think of ancient Chinese art, and nothing compares to it. So you need to come here if you want to see this stuff.
I wish I had more time to go over all the different works here, because there are plenty that are impressive and that are worth spending time going over. But that's pretty much it for this museum, as we headed to the gift shop on the way out. And when you happen to go to the gift shop, you might also notice that there are people who are carving new ebony carvings for souvenirs in case you're interested in buying one. Although, I had no idea what these were that they were carving. So, we left the Ebony Museum and headed back to our hotel, and that was the end of our time in Leshan. So, I hope you enjoyed this video of our time in Leshan, and next we're off to the city known as Yibin, where we're going to go ahead and head to the bamboo forests after a very, very, very long taxi ride, as well as try some new foods, and also climb up into the mountains, where we get to have wonderful views and also climb alongside the mountain temples of the Shunan Bamboo Forest. So see you next time. Thank you again for watching this video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you have not already done so. Also, please share this channel with others so we can make the channel grow together as I continue to put out more videos.